Hey, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Ryan.
Today I'm going to be sewing a mask out of an Allmask shirt.
Yes, and then I'm going to show you how to screen print that mask, not a t-shirt.
But why are we ruining a perfectly good Allmask shirt?
Okay, so we're in the middle of the coronavirus, and as these cases rise, there's a shortage of quality masks, both nationally and worldwide.
And a lot of the shops aren't printing right now, so it might as well make use of what we have on hand.
So let's, as they say, make some lemonade out of lemons and make a mask like the Allmask Enviro mask. So why don't you go ahead and show people how you're going to cut and sew the mask, and while you're doing that, I'll kind of do some voiceover about, why the Allmask fabric in particular is such a great fabric for a reusable mask because it's soft and antimicrobial.
So to get started, we will need just a plain sheet of paper, whatever size, as long as it can fit a 9x6 template. So with that, you will need a pen to draw it out, a ruler or measuring tape if you have one handy. You will obviously need a shirt, anything that you have laying around. We have a few Allmask tees here. And then next you'll need a pair of scissors, a seam ripper if you have one available, pins to pin down the sides of the mask so that it gets close to your face, and then some chalk to lay out the template on the shirt. We have elastic for the bands around your ears, and then we have extra thread. With the elastic, if I've found at the stores, they've been out given the circumstances, so I've made an alternative using the armbands on the Allmask shirt as a replacement. So with that said, I will jump into sewing. Okay, so now that I have the 9" by 6" template, we've chosen to use the orange Allmask shirt. So I'm gonna find an easy spot on the shirt to start with and try to use up the most material as possible, so don't just put it smack dab in the middle. That way you can use the material for many different types of masks and even sizes. So if there's children's size, women's and men's, you can fit quite a bit on this shirt here. So for now, I'm going with kind of just a standard size, and I'll start down here by the hem. Because it is kind of tapered, I'm going to try and get it as close to the edge as possible. And then from here, I'm going to grab the chalk and just make a very crude line around it, just so I know where to cut. And I'm also going to make sure to cut at the hemline to avoid any bunching during the sewing process. So really you just want the thinnest amount of material as possible. And then from there, I grabbed some peaking shears, which are kind of zigzaggies. If you have them around, they basically just reinforce the threads, not from fraying. But if not, regular scissors will be fine. You'll just have to reinforce the stitching later on. And so I'll just take both sides of the shirt together and just be careful as you're cutting the material. It likes to move, so just try and keep in your lines as close as possible. And we'll do the same on this side. So again, I'm just using these scissors just as reinforcement throughout usage, since I don't have a serger handy here, which is some finishing edges. This is just a good plan B to help. Okay. So this is the first bit that you'll need, these two sheets. And then if you do have some elastic handy, I have these at about 5 inches. This one is about 5 inches, this is 6. So the length of the elastic will depend on the person who's using the mask. So obviously, children's masks would probably, you're going to want to go much smaller, probably about 3.5 inches, maybe 4. But for this, I'm going to do the kind of the smaller one. And this, we need 4 of them. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, so we have our 2 sheets and 4 pieces of elastic to start with. So now we're ready to put it on the machine. So I'm grabbing both sheets and making sure that the edges are as close as possible. While you're sewing, especially with this material, it likes to stretch and move, and sometimes what will happen is you'll start creeping around the edge, which you don't want. You want to get as close as possible. So I'm going to start kind of in the middle here, and I'm using just the distance of the presser foot as kind of a guide. And I'm starting more in the middle of the piece. That way, once we get to the end, I have enough to pull the material through. So we want to leave about a gap right here. Here is where I'm going to be putting the first piece of elastic, leaving the needle down, that way I can move freely. So open the top part and place the elastic at a diagonal, like that. And we're going to sew it like a sandwich. And all machines have a back stitch, so to reinforce the elastic, I just back stitched there. And then with the needle still down, I'm turning it this way and just being mindful of the elastic not to sew over it. And so you can start seeing the material start to curl up, and it'll like to move on you. So just hold on the back side to help guide you. And then we're getting close to that other corner. So I'm gonna do that. Go inside here and grab the other end of the elastic. Raise the foot. And again, you're doing it at a diagonal again. Okay, so we just did our first piece of elastic. So now the next stitch is pretty simple. You're just running a full stitch all the way down. Presser foot down. Make sure that the presser foot is always down when you're about to sew.
All-made fabric is unique because it's not only soft, durable, and safe, but it's made from eco-friendlier components and in an environmentally safe and friendly way. For instance, the fabric we're making the EnviroMask from is from our tri-blend. That means we use 3 different fibers of yarn. We use recycled because it recycles ocean-bound plastic water bottles and turns them into a soft fiber. The average shirt, for instance, contains about 6 recycled water bottles. The next component is 25% organic cotton. Yes, that's no pesticides or chemicals in growing or processing this soft cotton. And when you think about wearing this mask on your face, how could it not be organic? And the secret ingredient is 25% modal. Now, modal is a sustainable fiber made from beech trees. It's softer and stronger than cotton, uses way less resources to grow and produce it. It's also antimicrobial, which means it will wash better, last longer, and fight off bad germs. When it comes to t-shirts, you can even go to allmade.com and calculate the impact you'll make by choosing a better environmentally friendly shirt. You'd be surprised. When you feel this fabric, you'll feel your impact and will absolutely love it.
Okay, so now we've reached this point again, which is about a little over half of an inch away. You can even go an inch just to give you more space to place the elastic. But again, you want to place it down and then put it at a diagonal just like before. Okay, and then this. And then making sure again just to keep the elastic away from where you're sewing. Okay, so we're at that about inch line now. So I'm gonna go in. Now the space is a little smaller, so just be careful. So once you've grabbed the other end, put it at that same diagonal about an inch away. Okay, so now we've just sewn the last of the elastic. So I'm gonna go back to where I pointed out before. This is the gap where I'm gonna be pulling, because it's essentially inside out right now. So we need to pull it back out. So I'm gonna sew a little bit more. About right there. So I'm doing that because I need to have enough to pull my fingers through. So I'll do that, grab the scissors. Yes, we have a rectangle, our opening here. So we're going to open it up like that. I'm gonna basically, because this is inside out, I want this material to come outside of itself. So gently, and be careful of these stitches here, but carefully pull it outside. Okay. And just tug on the outsides. Try to get it as flat as possible. If you have an iron handy, that would even be better if you can just put some heat on and just get these as flat as possible before you sew to avoid any kind of bunching of the material once we start to sew it. So now that's where that space is. So I'm gonna go through and cut the tail and then run a reinforcement stitch over the top here. So this might take me a little bit, but just so you can see, I'll do the first row. And since there's more material that you're working through, you'll need to guide it a little more through the thicker part of the material. put the needle down and then do the same thing on either sides. And again with the long end. And now the last side. And the elastic kind of makes it a little tough, so try to get this as flat as possible. Okay. So now we've reinforced the edges, and now we're gonna get ready to cinch the sides, but there's our base of the mask. So now that I have my pins, I'm going to start cinching the sides so that when you wear them, when you wear the mask, it's tight on the sides of your face. So by doing that, kind of take your finger and pull up. We're going to do 2 to 3 sections here, 3 if possible. But you'll see how much material is right here. So I'm going to pin that down. So we got 1, and we got 2. And 3. So this is gonna be pretty snug, probably fit me okay. Okay, so you want to repeat this on this side and try to make them as even as possible. So 1. And it's kind of easy. You can see how the fabric kind of naturally falls, so you can just grab it the same side. Okay. Now this pattern is a little, what I found to be more simple than some of the others, but there's plenty online that I've seen. I just thought this was a good kind of quick, you don't have too many pieces or complicated patterns to deal with. It's a rectangle and 2 pieces of elastic. So now you can see how it's kind of cinched where that's going to go. So I'm going to run a stitch. So take it kind of slow here because there's so much, and try to back stitch at least a few times. And as you can see, I have the pins here, so I'll pull it out as I get closer, but you just don't want to sew over the pin. Okay. so that's the first side. Cinched. Okay. So just a kind of tip, I found it easier to sew downwards than up because it likes to slip down. Typically you want the fabric to kind of hang off, but for now, since we have enough room, I'll do this side. And again, just watch the pins and take your time. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to just cut off all the extra threads and then try it on. Yeah, much tighter. Yeah. Yeah, ta-da!
Well, the mask looks and feels great, but I mean, it's kind of missing something, don't you think? A logo. I mean, why not logo a mask, right? We've been doing it with t-shirts for decades. So let's show you how to screen print this. As far as ink used to logo or decorate the mask, we would definitely recommend using water-based because you're going to be breathing through this. So like our Pitch Black from Green Galaxy is very soft, you won't feel it, it's breathable ink, but it's also very eco-friendly, meaning that it's Blue Science certified, it's vegan, doesn't have any phthalates or PVCs in it. We're using Warp Drive because we can flash that and it can just dry to the touch and then it will dry over time without having to go down a conveyor dryer. As far as mesh goes, we're going to be using the Eco Panels and probably a 160 to 200 range. We're using yellow mesh here. We want to get that ink into the mask, and it does have a couple of different layers to it typically, so we do want to have a little bit of penetration. However, we don't need to use super low mesh. We're also using a water-resistant emulsion, of course. We're actually going to be printing this on the Rock automatic press. You can obviously print this on a manual press as well. So let's just get this thing registered and set up. Now, there are two ways to do this actually. You can do it with just your cut piece, or you can do it with a fully finished mask. It's going to be easier to do it with your cut piece because you're not going to have to rely on two plies and holding or fixturing down the mask itself. For purposes of this video, we're going to show you how to do the mask, because if you're not making this at home and you're buying the mask like the Allmask Enviro mask, even though it's not exactly like this, you would want to screen print the finished product. So we're going to fixture this down so it doesn't move during printing, very similar to how you would do a jacket. So a jacket hold down would clamp it down, and who knows, maybe we'll make an attachment for a Rock or a Riley Hopkins in order to do that. But if you don't have that, I'm just going to simply use tape to hold it in place so it doesn't move during printing. So I'm just going to use this regular old screen tape. I'm going to tape off both sides to the platen so that we get a good printable surface right here. So it just gives a little bit of tension, doesn't move during printing. Again, since we're using water-based ink, it's not really going to move that much because we're really going to be driving that ink. But you don't want to skew the fabric, but you do want to hold it in place during the printing process. Just kind of tape it up under there. We're using here a perfect platen. It's the Action Engineering sleeve and kind of pocket platen that you can do koozies and pockets on. And then we're going to be printing the Allmask logo right on the mouth. Obviously, depending on how you're logoing this, I don't think the logoing mask business is super hot yet. So print placement and sizing and mock-ups, it's kind of new territory. So bring this over here to the Rock and then drop the head down. So we just need to orchestrate the screen up a little bit here. We're going to do the logo right in the center. Kind of tape it off. We'll do a larger logo there. So lock that in. Oh, I got to pull the back up. We're using a slightly smaller screen because we don't really need a large screen. So I'm going to pull up my off contact here. Love how easy this rock is to get in and out of. Makes it much simpler to print. Then lock that down, and then pull that back up. I do need to take this off, so I'll be right back. All right, so we made some changes to the rock menu because we're doing a 2-ply item. What we did is we went under print head functions, we selected final. This is going to keep the print head in the down position even though it's doing 2 print strokes. Very important because you don't want that lifting up and then lifting the fabric up. So we're going to do 1 piece on, 1 piece off, and print this up. Nice.
Good.
Okay, that's gonna be good. Okay, let's try this on. All right. It's a little snug, but I think it comes out good. I know you want them probably fitting tight. This is obviously the DIY version of the Allmask Enviro mask, but came out looking pretty good. Feels awesome on your face. Nice eco-friendly fabric. Nice brand Allmask mark right there. It's a mask you can wear, print, and probably sell. Man, this came out great. Thank you so much for showing us how to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Great ideas come out of necessity.
Yeah, if it wasn't for a submarine crew preparing for war in 1913, we would all not be wearing t-shirts right now.
So find your idea.
All right, thanks for feeling your impact. Don't stop those presses. Keep powering the print, and let's press onward.